tell the person next to you what we were doing when you walked out of the room on Friday. The entire course is called Pushing the Limits, and in order for students to engage in the thinking around a course that's organized around essential questions and themes and such, I have to give them pathways into what we're reading. Okay, what is your big idea? So that means we started by reading what Dan Pink says about human motivation and what Malcolm Gladwell says about human success and expertise. So that's the first thing, because if they don't have background knowledge, they don't have anything to hang on to when they read. All they'll read for is beginning, middle, and end, or they'll read for superficial details. So I've got to give them, this research. And then we use that as a pathway into case studies. Take all of the different texts that you have read, you're trying to synthesize them, look for patterns in them. We are in the 3rd week of school, and as I was thinking about it, I wanted the students to have some kind of experience where they would make observations, notice patterns, draw conclusions, and I started to read about case studies and how they functioned in different disciplines.
There was some code about making sacrifices.
Students are using the case studies of these real people that they've read in these articles in order to inform this prototype for Google. What would your prototype still need? You could call these life-size prototypes a kind of graphic organizer.
Even though they're totally different things, they all connect in a certain way.
Have you figured out how they connect? Their challenge is to create this prototype for a robot that would embody the human qualities of people who push emotional limits, push intellectual limits, how they push physical limits. So what we've been trying to do is we've been trying to figure out what kinds of thinking happens when we look at more than one text at a time, which is really what these are representative of.
Creative, and I bet there's one in there about like the Disney therapy or whatever. Or motivated, you could be motivated with like the, wanting to talk to his son.
Something that one down here then?
Yeah.
For emotion.
The goal of the lesson was for students to recognize the patterns that they have been locating and observing throughout the reading of texts.
Do we have to fill something in over here?
Not only apply them to their prototype, but then test that prototype for gaps in their thinking. Off you go.
Would this be a good quote? Not knowing what really works or helps makes identifying the essentials all but impossible. You try everything.
Yeah.
Okay. The first thing that they did, they got into their groups, and this was a chance for me to ask them some questions to keep pushing their thinking, make sure that they are anchoring the insights that they have and the patterns that they've noticed to textual evidence.
Like, how do you explain passion?
All right, so what is passion?
Like, to care for something.
But more...
But like something that you're actually motivated to do.
Something that you're actually motivated to do. All right, so how would you describe passion then? Based on what you read about Ferguson, how would you describe passion?
Something that drives you to do something, but like for emotional reasons.
I think that sounds great. Are there other examples besides just the Ferguson?
And the American Ninja Warrior, she had a passion for doing that.
Right, so you could actually take out the text that you have. You could find the quotes where and you could include those right there. All right?
All right.
Okay. What do you think is the big strength of your prototype right now?
Like learning and adapting, because we have like the surviving and stuff.
So it's kind of an interesting challenge, isn't it? To create a prototype that learns?
Yeah.
This is early in the year, so there's a lot of this kind of questioning or explicit teaching that I need to start to empower them to become autonomous thinkers by highlighting over and over again, these are what our brains do. How do you know when you come across a quote that works?
It describes the characteristics that we wrote down.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, like I literally write good quote next to quotes that are good.
And then as soon as you write why it's a good quote, even better.
I do that too.
Hold your poster up high. What was your aha moment?
Our biggest aha would probably be that she has to be coachable and self-driven.
To concentrate, to block out all distractions.
Learn from your mistakes or situations.
After they had worked on these prototypes, I wanted to do some sharing. I asked, what's the big takeaway that each group had?
All right, ours is probably to like learn from the mistakes and to adapt from like the situation. And one of the quotes says, survivors immediately accept the situation for what it is. Two important survivors, indicators, optimism, and unflappability. Like if you can't change to like what your mistakes were, then you're probably not gonna be able to survive in like tough situations like Ralston or the Most Dangerous Game.
All right, good.
Okay, our aha moment was our quote in the head, and that is, not knowing what really works or helps makes identifying the inessentials all but impossible. You try everything. And that sort of goes with drive and creativity, because you have to try everything and you have to be willing to try everything.
Well done. From there, they really needed to test their prototype. I wanted to have them see what they were missing. What do you feel confident about? I'd been asking them, what are you noticing? What patterns are you finding? And then I went to a couple of groups and I said, so let's say, okay, so I'm Google. You have to present this to me in a week. I work at Google. Tell me where you're at right now. What can you give me right now? What's your status?
We have a couple of the dispositions. We probably just need to like see how, like different things and how that would affect a person.
Okay. Asking them that question and then hearing their responses really revealed for me that they were not ready to kind of do this other plan. We're gonna have to shift gears here. We're shifting gears. So I quickly gave them a little bit more work time. I built in for myself about 5 minutes where I could quickly come up with scenarios. They need a different kind of way to get further into their thinking. So that's what I'm doing, is making up these scenarios. One of the first things that I did was I looked at my bookshelf and I saw some books. And I remembered the plot lines of a few of them where characters had to push the limits. So I kind of borrowed the plot lines of A Fault in Our Stars and The Giver. So that was the first thing I did. I need you to start to put your prototypes to the test. We're gonna do this a little bit differently. I'm gonna give you some challenges, all right? You need to start to think about if what you have created could actually function. So up here, I'm gonna have you send a representative from your group up here and grab one of these cards. And I need your group to figure out two things. What qualities of your prototype are currently equipped to handle this situation, and what qualities does your prototype still need in order to handle this situation? I need you to write down both of those things somewhere on your poster. Giving them those scenarios got them really focused on what I needed them to walk away with, which was determining what their prototypes had, and I needed them to start to recognize that maybe there were some gaps that they needed to fill as well. What would your prototype still need in order to hold all of the memories of a society?
Well, we have good memories, so that would definitely help.
Okay, but that's really a small part of the challenge, because that's not really what pushes the limit, right? What pushes the limit is that single person is holding all of the memories of society.
It's a lot.
Yeah, so what do you do, right?
And then how it would like communicate that with others.
How would you communicate it?
It's not just memory.
It's not just memory.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, I got it. So him holding all the society's memories, like all that pressure, and be able to like capture it all.
I was gonna say that he's lacking the capacity to hold all the memories.
He can control his emotions, but he can't really communicate his emotions.
In designing this short project, what's happened is they read with more purpose, because now they know they're not just reading to figure out what happened, now they're reading to figure out, well, what am I learning about humans in these readings, and how do I synthesize this? As you thought about that connection, does that have any influence on how you think about surviving the plane crash?
Yeah, probably, because like other people on the plane could influence like our prototypes' decisions on like how to survive.
Now they're gonna transfer it to a speaking experience. They're gonna transfer it to a writing experience. So we have all of those fundamental skills playing off of each other, intertwined with each other, and I think that's what makes it valuable. And it feels real to them. What were you able to uncover because you were looking at many texts and not just one. What's your brain doing?
You start to connect them.
You start to connect?
Yes.
Start to see the differences.
Why is it important to see differences?
There's variations.
There are variations.
We'll start to see similarities.
When you start to see things over and over again, you start to think, well, maybe this is
Important.